Now we have Dr. Su, Professor Su for 5 minutes. Your time begins now.
Bonjour, merci pour l'invitation. Thank you, Madam Chair, Committee, for inviting me to this study. My name is Dr. Yvonne Su. I am an associate professor at York University. I'm currently a visiting scientist at Harvard. I study asylum, migration, and global governance, including how public narratives shape immigration policy. I would like to make 3 points today. First, Canada's asylum system should be assessed with careful attention to legal standards and actual outcomes. Second, recent data on international students and asylum need to be interpreted within context. And third, current policy debates should be informed by Canada's longer history of exclusion. First, Canada's asylum system is neither automatic or unrestricted. The right to apply for asylum is protected in Canadian and international law, but claimants must still prove a well-founded fear of persecution, and many claims are indeed rejected. But when the public and our policymakers are only presented with numbers about applications, not decisions, their perceptions of the robustness of our system is rightly skewed. For example, my analysis of IRB data on India, the main source country for asylum, found that between 2021 to 2024, claims were often rejected. They were more often rejected than accepted. The rejections are really important to highlight because they take the air out of the rhetoric that international students are applying for asylum as a secure backdoor to stay longer in Canada. Second, the increase in claims international students should be situated carefully. International students filed just over 20,000 asylum claims in 2024. When we look at that number alone, the number looks large, but it only amounts to 2% of the almost 1 billion international students in Canada, meaning more than 98% of international students in Canada did not apply for asylum. That is a small minority, not a massive abuse of the asylum system.
Professor Su, did you say 1 billion people applied for?
Sorry, 1 million.
Thank you.
Sorry, 1 million. Sorry about that. Yet the question remains, how can we prevent this in the future? My analysis of IRCC data found that the abuse was concentrated to a small number of places. 4 colleges had more than 1,000 claims each. 3 colleges had 100% of their international students claim asylum. Yes, it is shocking. This suggests that a central problem is not international students as a group, but bad actors who profit from misinformation and exploitation. My first recommendation is to penalize the bad actors. Immigration consultants, colleges are exploiting vulnerable students, and they should face stronger penalties, meaningful enforcement, and where necessary, loss of designation or license. My second recommendation is to expedite asylum decisions for international students, to take away any incentives for consultants or institutions to misuse the system. My third recommendation is to better equip students by making sure they know what their options are before their study permit expires. To close, I would encourage the committee to consider these debates in historical perspective and ensure that our new caps and policies don't push us towards exclusion. I want to remind the committee of the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was enacted in 1923, just over 100 years ago, to effectively ban most Chinese immigration to Canada. This ban meant that Chinese people could not freely immigrate to Canada, and many families were unable to reunite here. One of those migrants was my great-grandfather, Lo Yin, who came to Canada almost 150 years ago, but was forced to return to China due to these exclusionary laws. My own family experienced the long shadow of exclusion through separation, constrained opportunities, and the sense that belonging in Canada is always conditional. It would take my family 5 generations of effort for my 2 children, Jack and James Yvonne Su, to be born Canadian. I mention this history because it reminds us that immigration policy is not just administrative. It also shapes who is seen as deserving, credible, and welcomed. Catherine Clement, my friend and an award-winning community historian, wrote this book called The Paper Trails to tell the stories of those impacted by exclusion. I think this book needs to be in every school in Canada to learn about the mistakes of the past, and I brought some for you guys. As the committee studies Canada's immigration system, the challenge is to respond to legitimate concerns with evidence, proportionality, and historical awareness. Policies should target exploitation where they exist while avoiding broad assumptions of entire groups. That approach could strengthen the system's integrity while remaining consistent with Canada's legal obligations and democratic values. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Professor Su. And